A second stimulus package will be approved by August 8th and could and probably will include benefits for SSDI and SSI. Hey everybody, this is LALATE with a second stimulus check update for today. Hope you are good and safe. Thanks for tuning in. This is one of 3 second stimulus checks and stimulus package updates for today. First, we're going to be detailing what you should be in store for in the coming weeks and why a second stimulus package will be approved by August 8th. Moreover, what about SSDI and SSI? One of the big questions that we've been getting overnight. So let's get right to it. A second stimulus package will be approved by August 8th, this channel is reporting. In fact, it's not the only channel that's detailing it. Overnight, several leading news sources have said that there's a finite window for when a second stimulus package can be approved by members of Congress. The problem, and certainly it's not something that any of us likes to hear, is that members of Congress keep on taking vacations. They're taking a vacation in July, they're taking a vacation in August. So there's a finite window in which they can get a second stimulus package approved. That finite window starts late July when they come back into session. The last day that they're in session is August 8th. And by all indications, it suggests that a second stimulus package will be approved on August 8th. So what will it include and what is on the table? And let's get to that real big question about SSDI and SSI. Let me first start with that. That was one of 2 major questions that this channel got overnight. The other one we got was about hazard pay, which will be our second stimulus check video of today. Later today, we'll be covering PUA and UI with a new development on that as well, the $600 from the federal government, the FPUC. All right, so SSDI and SSI. Where is the realm of confusion? Well, let me cut to the great news, and this is great news right off the pact. SSDI and SSI people will get a second stimulus check. The reason why is the following. As you know, back in March, the CARES Act was approved for the first stimulus package. Later in May, the HEROES Act was approved by the House and then routed to the Senate for a second stimulus package. What is different between the 2 bills is that the HEROES Act is very, very clear that SSDI and SSI is covered for a second stimulus check. Let me explain why. Here you go. When the CARES Act, the first stimulus package, was approved back in March and became law, it initially wasn't phrased clearly for SSDI and SSI. Initially, the CARES Act, as interpreted, suggested that the only people getting a first stimulus check back in March were people who had filed a tax return. Naturally, those on SSDI and SSI may not have filed a tax return by the time that the CARES Act was approved, and so a lot of people may have been left out of the first stimulus check. Weeks went on, and the IRS thought there's a big concern, and so the IRS clarified the situation for the first stimulus check and said that those on SSDI and SSI are covered by the first stimulus check. A Forbes reporter, Kelly Phillips Erb, explains the confusion that erupted in the first stimulus check for SSDI and SSI. In the March version of the CARES Act, initially proposed in the Senate, taxpayers needed to be working or receiving Social Security or pension income to qualify for a check. However, in the final version of the CARES Act, the one that's now the law, it does not require earned income nor the filing of a tax return for a check. Automatic payment would also be sent to those requiring Social Security retirement, survivor or disability benefits, SSDI, railroad retirement benefits, as well as supplemental security income, SSI, and veteran affairs beneficiaries who did not file return for the last 2 years. So that's how the CARES Act cleaned it up. But as I just explained, the CARES Act initially was a hot mess. It didn't make it clear for SSDI and SSI. It actually included language that suggested perhaps they weren't covered. But when it got into law, it cleared it up. we're not going to have this problem for a second stimulus check. And why do I say this? And this is for SSDI and SSI. Because the HEROES Act saw this problem. The HEROES Act heard your concerns, and when the members of the House, led by Democrats, approved the HEROES Act, they said, we're not going to do this mess again. We're going to make sure that people on SSDI and SSI get a second stimulus check. So what's different in the HEROES Act, which of course is not yet law and has landed in the Senate from the House, is that it clarifies that all people on SSDI and SSI get a second stimulus check. As you know, the proposal is $1,200, a single check, no retroactive benefit checks. I'll be getting to that in a second. It also drops the age of qualification. So it drops it for every dependent child, $500 down to 17 years of age from 18. And it raises the payment for minors to $1,200 each. That's the same as their adults retrospective. It also provides $1,200 for each adult recipient, even if they're a dependent, which also changes the amount that you would get as an SSDI or SSI person, respectfully. It comes as part of a very large package. And this is, great news, because the Democrats understood that SSDI and SSI were really not clearly defined in the first stimulus package, the CARES Act. The HEROES Act makes it as clear as can be. So that is the first thing. The second thing is, that's only one proposal. And what this channel has been detailing over the last couple of days, I'm going to go over it a little bit more in detail right now, is that Congress has something called Fast Track. Fast Track allows, in the case of certain emergencies, in the case of certain scenarios, to fast track legislation between House and Senate faster than a normal bill would be. So a lot of people have said, or not a lot, a couple people have dropped in the comments that says, hey, the HEROES Act is the only thing on the table. No, it's absolutely not the truth. And that even with what we know yet, whether it's the Portman Plan, the Brady Plan, the HEROES Act, or anything else on the table at the moment, the Rubio Plan, which I talked about 2-3 days ago, you can totally see a whole new set of bills come late July. Here is what is on the table, and let me go over what's on the table. So we already talked about a second stimulus check. There are other versions of the second stimulus check still on the table. 6 checks, $2,000 every single month for at least 6 months, or until the pandemic settles down or unemployment rates improve. Current unemployment numbers are 13%, worst in a very, very long time. This country is at about 3% unemployment before the pandemic. The Department of Labor issued their new labor numbers last Thursday. They're horrific. They indicated there was 1 million new jobless claims for the 14th week last week. What I've been detailing as well is that this coming Thursday, you need to keep your ears and eyes open, because next Thursday, the June jobs numbers comes out, and it's not expected to be good. Larry Kudlow, who has been sort of deer in headlight lately and has been saying everything is great and punky-dory, is certainly going to get smacked when that number comes out, because it's not indicative of a V. Many are suggesting that the numbers are very, very poor. We know that on Friday there were 44,000 new COVID cases in this country alone just that day. That means there's 44,000 new people who are unemployed. That number, at least, and the reason why the number is actually higher, is that if you live with a COVID-19 patient, you can inherently work. You qualify for PUA. So when we hear every single case of COVID-19 infection growing, that's also indication that the unemployment number is growing as well. What's coming up also on the table, besides the 6 checks, is the following. There are checks for people in supplement to that, who are able to go back to work but are unable to make a decent amount of living. The concern is that, hey, you may have a job to go back to work, you may own a job, you may not have enough customers, or you may not have enough hours to make ends meet. That is the Portman Plan. It's also the Brady Plan, both Republicans. Portman proposes to give you $445 per week for a certain number of weeks. Brady proposes to give you $1,200 or two $600 checks. No one believes that that is sufficient in its own universe. It's not intended to be sufficient in its own universe. It's only a benefit for those going back to work, because Portman says it very correctly. He understands that people who go back to work need to have relief as much as people who are unemployed. As this channel has detailed, and I'll say it again, and I always use this as a disclaimer, this channel is here for everyone. This channel is here for people who are unemployed, for people who are on SSDI, for people who have businesses with 500 employees, for people who have mortgages and loans or grants or want EIDL or want PUA or PPPL. This channel is here to answer everyone's concerns, because ultimately everyone is impacted. What's also still on the table? Hazard pay, and that's going to be our second stimulus check video today, so I'm not going to go too much in detail of that. Hazard pay is still on the table. Also, mortgage forbearance, which is really, it's one of these things that's expiring in July. Let me go over all these things that are expiring in July. It's very, very scary. The mortgage moratorium for certain mortgages, generally not Fannie and Freddie Mae, is expiring in July. So that means if you have a mortgage, you have to start paying for it. Also expiring in July, the expiration of FPUC. That'll be our third stimulus check video today. That $600 from the federal government goes on top of UI and PUA weekly benefits. Remember, again, this is not PUA. It's actually called FPUC. It's given to both UI people and PUA people. It's $600 for the federal government. It expires in late July. Also expiring in late July, repayment of student debts. There's currently a moratorium on repaying interest and principal on students' debts. That is expiring in July. All these things are dominoing at the same time as two things are occurring. One, unemployment numbers are going through the roof. Two, COVID-19 new infection numbers are going through the roof, which are hand in hand. If you have COVID-19, you're clearly unemployed. And three, more states, more counties are going back on lockdown or going backwards in the number of phases they have. So there you go. What do we say and what do we think? Well, we really do believe, the viewers of this channel have universally said the following things. One, $1,200 is a joke. $1,200 as a second stimulus check is a joke. It is not sufficient as a single amount, and it's not sufficient to be delivered by ratification of the members of Congress in August. Why? Because people were entitled to a second stimulus check, in April. The March one was delivered in April. Okay, where's the April check? Where's the May check? Where's the June check? Where's the July check? To say you're going to give people one stimulus check when you had them on lockdown for several months, and now they're coming back out of lockdown and may or may not have a job, maybe are unemployed or don't have a job or went back to a job and are furloughed again, which has happened to a lot of people, a lot of viewers of this channel in the last few days, that is a joke. It's also not sufficient to say, hey, re-elect me, I'm giving you a stimulus check now, right before the election. That's also not going to fly. $2,000 is really the consensus with multiple checks. Next, most viewers of this channel also believe that retroactive benefits are needed. We did a video 2 days ago about Marco Rubio, who introduced his own legislation, in the Senate, of course, for retroactive benefits. Unfortunately, it doesn't qualify for most of the viewers of this channel. It was only for retroactive benefits for people who were excluded from the first stimulus package. And it was for people who were basically non-U.S. citizens but are married to a U.S. citizen. So it's that type of twists and turns. There's a lot more to be said about when we're talking about Social Security. And this channel really tries to cover all the elements you need to be concerned about as in a second stimulus package. I really do believe that multiple checks are going to be approved, that you're going to see retroactive checks, and that you're not going to see this hogwash of one $1,200 check and that's it, take it or leave it. I just don't think it's going to happen. The Republicans had an initial song and dance, and as you know, this channel is not partisan whatsoever, but the Republicans, aka Mitch McConnell's song and dance was he did not have enough economic data and that Americans go back to work and everyone's great and wonderful. It's absolutely not the case. The numbers now suggest that people are not back to work, that the country is not rebounding in a V as we initially may have thought. It's more a W or a series of W's, that unemployment numbers are really going through the roof, and that to not provide an extension of FPUC, the $600 from the federal government, which is expiring in July, will cause financial turmoil. up the food chain. It will literally cause financial turmoil up the food chain. So no one in their right mind really thinks a single $1,200 stimulus check is sufficient. Now, as I always do, I want to cover everything that you need to know. And here's another thing, since we're talking about Social Security and SSDI and all those other things that are in the universe out there. One of them I want to go over is the Social Security offices open? And this is a real big concern. As you know, the Social Security Administration offices have been closed since the start of the pandemic. We are not able to accept in-person visitors to our local offices this time except by appointment for dire need situations. They claim they're available by telephone and online, but viewers of this channel have not had help. Moreover, the tool called Maximize My Social Security is a reliable and strong tool, but some people have not necessarily had it. The other concern is that there's a whole article out there. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but it talks about whether or not, if you are at the age of requesting Social Security, if you should now request Social Security rather than drawing from your savings because of the pandemic. It's one of those things to be concerned about. It's one of those things to address. But let me end with 5 economic indicators that came out today, which is all teed up, messed up that expression, to the second stimulus check debate. When you're looking at the second stimulus check debate, you're looking at economic factors to decide how much stimulus do you need and what's going on. Here are the 5 charts: directional requests, restaurant bookings, hotel occupancy, air travel, and home purchases. None of the data is good. First, directional requests, which talks about how people are moving around. Are they moving by car? Are they moving by plane? It shows that directional requests have improved for driving and walking, but other than that, it's not improved. Restaurant bookings, they're down 60% from year to date still. The upward trend is not sufficient. It is still down 60% year to date, and this is based upon May's data. Hotel occupancy, it's now at about 44%. And this is in markets, and I got to tell you, this article was published, was written before the current lockdown orders were instituted, as you know, that are sort of rolling out everywhere. Miami has announced that beaches are closed and things like that. But it showed that in top markets like Florida, at the time of the person writing the article, that occupancy rates were down about 54% and 49%. That number could actually now be worse as we're reverting. New York occupancy rates are actually even worse, even though their COVID-19 cases are improving. They're at about 44%. Air travel is down 70%. Only thing good in there is home purchases are about 18% year to date. But that is not really indicative of why you should hold off on a second stimulus check or give a second stimulus check. Coming up later today, 2 other second stimulus check videos, which you absolutely have to watch. They're really very big. One about hazard pay, because you've been asked about it. I'm going over it. And finally, PUA, and how senators and representatives are getting involved to get the PUA paid to members of their constituency. As always, stay LA for more.